Hey everybody, this is Perch, and I've made it clear in a couple of videos I'm not a fan of the current Krakoa era, but some people are. And so here's a viewer who's writing in with a defense for the Krakoa era, or a bit less of a defense, just more. This is why he likes it. That's cool. So let's see how much this rings true to some of you. Says hello, Perch, big fan from Puerto Rico, awesome country. Hope you are doing well. I've noticed over the years, of course, your displeasure with the Krakoan era of X-Men, which I can agree and disagree, which is understandable to a certain point. However, I want to say that from a general standpoint, I actually liked a lot of the Krakoa era, even with the faults, dragged out storylines, some books, or unnecessary events. Looking at you, Ten of Swords, and Judgment Day. I've been an X-Men fan for about 15 years, and I've read many of the eras of X-Men, though, and I like many of the older stories like anyone else, from the 60s to the 90s, post House of M, AVX, the Bendis era. However, as I read these runs, for as enjoyable as they were, there were certain plot lines that got so repetitive that there were many times I got tired of reading it. It just, because how extensive it got, like the X-Men always in the mansion, the different human organizations that want to kill the mutants, from the Purifiers to the Sapiens League to the Friends of Humanity, and a number of Sentinels from the past, present, future want to kill mutants in general. I guess the underdog theme got played out way too much, too frequently. After House of M, leading to Uncanny X-Men from Rosenberg, mutants by population were at a significant low number to the point that extinction from Wanda's No More Mutants to the Inhuman Mist that could kill mutants through the Mpox virus, which Cyclops actually died from as a consequence. The underdog theme of the X-Men at the extinction level got taken to the extreme, in my opinion, which is where my interests were dying for the X-Men. When Hickman started Hoxpox, he brought a dynamic of how a stand in the world as a whole that has never been done before in the industry, putting the mutants from as an economic superpower and its own nation, the island Krakoa, with the resurrection increasing the mutant population tenfold. To resume my point of why I like the Krakoa era, sorry it took so long to pull the context, my reasoning behind it, here are the main points. Okay. By the way, I'll interject here. So thank you for a lot of detail here. Thank you for putting that all in. And I don't want comics to always be the same. I think this is one of these negative things that gets pointed at people. Like, well, if you complain about comics, it just means you want them always to be the same. To the contrary, I do want them to change. I do want them to try new things. I do want all of these things. I guess the parts that bug me is not them trying something new and failing with it. I admire people who, take a shot at it. Even if it doesn't work out, I appreciate bold storytelling. The problem that I have with the Krakoa X-Men is really it's the opposite of bold storytelling because nothing is happening. It went into spinning wheel territory really quickly, and that's my main issue with it. It's that they prioritize just like let's have a book and another book and 10 more books and let's and look at this. I mean, one example, this Hellfire Gala that they do is stupid, but the election to the X-Men that they do is even dumber. I mean, we had an election to the X-Men a year ago. We got swallowed up into at least 2 events in that time. And I mean, nobody cares. And the team hasn't even gelled. We haven't even really seen the team operate as a team. I'm trying to think if has there been really any comics where we saw the entire team go off and face a threat for a couple issues. They've had these kind of one-off stories, and then they got pulled into this and that, and and now we're getting ready to get to another election. I mean, I find this absurd. Every year we're going to do an election, but we don't even have the comics we're not even doing anything with the election that we have. And meanwhile, a lot of these comics it's like, hey, it's the New Mutants and they're hanging out on the island and now the Shadow King's up to something again. We're going to just spin around on that for 10 issues. And then, it's going nowhere. That's my problem with it. Not that they're doing something new. You can do something new and it may or may not work, but I appreciate it's new. But the problems I have is the lack of any kind of progress or direction. But let's hear now back to the mail and we'll get the big points, okay? So it says, number 1, Krakoa gave legitimacy to the mutants and agency across the globe for nations and fellow superheroes to put their eyes to either corporate instead of viewing them as a resource to be needed rather than something to be eliminated or ignored. Yeah, okay. I mean, it caused people to view mutants in a different way. Not a problem. I don't feel like they ever really executed that very well, but the idea was fine. Number 2, Resurrection Protocols brought a new dynamic that eliminated temporarily the underdog theme of the X-Men had been known since the 60s. It did turn on its head. I think it's one of those things that short-term was a good buzz, and long-term has a lot of problems, and I think we're seeing those now. The unification of mutants that were considered heroes and villains in the past, all in one location, give an interesting layer of tension between characters that even though there's always a temporary thing, whether in the Quiet Council, different mutant teams, or just hanging on the island itself. There's another one where I think I didn't love the idea, but I did appreciate the newness to it. But again, the promise or the value of this, they haven't done anything with. The idea was new and novel. I agree with you in this mail, but how has there been tension in the island? It's like every now and then it's like, I don't know why we have the Shadow King here. We probably shouldn't. I don't know. He seems like a dick. Let's fuck around with that for a while. Like it's like that's the problem with it. They got an idea, but they're not doing anything with it. Anyway, the establishment of Moira as the main architect of the establishment of Krakoa is actually an intelligent move from Hickman, regardless of it flipping the switch of her being ousted as of right now. I agree. I thought the Moira stuff was good. I think there was plenty you could have done there. I actually think they then took a 9-month break of even mentioning that she was around, which was weird. The threat of Orcus, the Phalanx, Xeno as adversaries toward the mutants affected even the decision done in the Quiet Council for better or worse. This is where I differ with you. I think, they set up new threats, and then they proceeded to ignore those threats. Have we seen the Phalanx in 2 years? Have they done anything with that? That future that Hickman painted, is that still coming or not? Or, I don't know. Moira's in that garden in the future, but now she's a robot. Who knows? Anyway. Number 7, characters like Storm, Jean gained some agency in their respective story arcs where they appeared. I disagree here hard. I think, they're doing stuff with Storm. She's the regent of Mars, but I feel like her character is even less relatable now, and Jean just kind of wanders around. You don't see much of Jean. The last big character moment we had with her, she was sitting in a jungle hot tub with Wolverine. That's kind of the last big moment we had. Having the mutants having more conversations with fellow superheroes, whether it's a team up or battle between them from the Fantastic Four, Avengers, Eternals, etc., giving some interconnectivity of the X-Men inside the Earth 616. I have liked that. I agree. I think that's good. Bringing interesting plot lines and tones into books from the X-Men, Hellions, X-Force, Marauders. First one, Jerry Duggan, not Steve Orlando. That one sucks. Yeah, it does. Sword, Excalibur, New Mutants, Way of X, etc. There's plots there. It doesn't feel like it has a direction. I appreciate the new, but it's gotta go somewhere. Good for them for trying something new, but it actually doesn't feel like there is new now. It's the illusion of new. Anyway, we're wrapping up this mail. So I understand that Krakoa is not everyone's cup of tea and that it has problems. However, I do stand my ground of what I feel like. I like this line without apologizing or feeling sorry due to the difference of opinions. Good for you. You should. Hopefully, there can be a discussion about it. As of right now, the Sins of Sinister event will be coming up soon, and like any era, this is going to be temporary until it returns to a certain status quo. And numbering, as Marvel usually does with their titles. Appreciate you reading this mail. Hopefully, an opportunity for an actual discussion about it, rather a different perspective on a video to generate conversation. Yeah. So thank you very much for laying it out. This is the kind of conversation I want. This is where whatever side of the cultural divide you're on, I hope we give each other room to actually put opinions like this out. This knee-jerk, like, you can't talk bullshit, it kills me. People who are complete bad actors, I have no patience for at all. You can sniff out at this point, like, who wants to have a fight and who's willing to, have a dialogue and disagree. The best times in a comic shop where you had difference of opinions and people could talk their way through them, those were fun. And that's what I always hope for. And I never, ever had a problem with somebody coming in with a radically different opinion than me, because that would lead to good discussions. But if the person had a different opinion than me and just was, screwing around and trying to shut down conversation, then that was boring as hell. So thank you very much for writing in. Like I said, I'm not enjoying it. To me, the crux of it is there's nothing happening. And the Sins of Sinister, and there's too many just kind of random, it feels like they're throwing stuff at the wall. The Sins of Sinister event, fine, okay, we'll see a couple issues of that. Oh, Sinister is successful, and then that ends, and then we're going to get Iron Man crossovers with the X-Men, and then we're getting Fall of the Mutants again, and it needs direction. It needs urgency. That's what I want. Anyway, thank you very much for laying out your points. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments, and this reader know, and listener, viewer, whatever. Thanks for listening.